Trending is brought to you by the Bahamas Adventist Book and Nutrition Center, located on Tonic Williams Darling Highway.
Hey there, and welcome to Young and Trending here on Word SBC 88.3 FM, where we aim to be bold, be true, and be heard. I'm Pastor Nasser.
And I'm Tyler.
And today we have a topic for you guys. Why not me?
Why not me?
Why not me? I mean, I'm me, right? You know, so we want to take this conversation somewhere. You know, there was something that happened recently. Tyler's going to tell you about it right now, and it's going to set the stage for where we're going today.
So very recently, there was a award show in which this artist received a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Pretty much.
In the field. And he went up there to receive the award, and, you know, he's nervous, but then he also started to talk about how his wife had the most awards ever.
Well,
from this award show,
yeah,
but had never won. Trying so hard to talk around this.
Yeah, you know,
but I never won Album of the Year, right? And, you know, he was like, that doesn't make any sense. And he started to say, some of y'all in here don't even deserve to be in any of these categories. Some of y'all will be robbed tonight. Some of y'all have been robbed. And, you know, he went back to say also, okay, yes, this is opinion-based, but by your own metrics, they still don't add up. And, you know, even though that's a secular environment, that definitely relates to how a lot of people feel when it comes to their lives versus what they could see going on in other people's lives.
Well, you know, and from one perspective, someone may look at this gentleman's proclamation, and they may look at someone in a similar situation in whatever field talking like that and say, you just sour.
Yeah. Or like, look how you complaining. You have all this.
Right.
You have all this stuff.
You have something, right.
What you want even more for?
What you want, but like was mentioned, you know, he was saying, hey, there have been many people who have gotten this particular thing that he believes she deserved. And so why not me? Well, why not her in that case? And so we could bring it down home, but like, why not me? Like, there are times when you may feel as if you're overlooked. There may be times where you feel as if you've checked off all the boxes, you've crossed all your T's and dotted all of the I's, and yet you don't get the promotion.
Because why is it everybody but me?
But me. But I come to work on time, and somebody else get the promotion, or they get the opportunity. They got the trip. They got the chance to go and represent. They got the freebies. Why? I remember growing up, I used to always say, and I hear a lot of people say, I never win nothing in my life. Anyone can relate. Like, you would go, there'd be, and the person right after you, you're all lucky. You never win.
Oh, you know, like you in a raffle.
You in a raffle.
And they say all the numbers, and they come down to the last number.
Last one.
Except you.
Except you, right? Or you in school and class, and they're going to pick certain children to get a certain special treat or whatever. And they pick all the people around you, and you never, you know. And so, you know, many people feel like, why not me? What's wrong with me?
Right.
What's wrong? What?
And
why?
I think that's because a lot of times, you know, we talk about how you can improve yourself, you know, how you can grow in your relationship with Christ and in your relationship with other people. We talk about, like, you doing all this stuff. These steps you can take. But also I feel a lot of times we don't talk about when you're taking all the steps. So as a Christian, you know, you're giving your tithes, you are, you know, pursuing your personal relationship with Christ, you're studying and reading the Bible, and it seems that things just not working out for you. You could be, as a young person, you did all the steps, you studied hard, you got your scholarship, you went to college, and now you come back home and you still can't get a job, or the job that you could get is like minimum wage, or you're not able to work in your field. And there was a tweet I saw where it talked about what is the problem with this generation, and it was like, we did all the things they said we were supposed to do, and then they changed the rules.
Very see.
So now we left with all this. Why not me? Like, why not me? And it's worse, at least from the perspective of a young person, when especially coming through the system of getting your good grades and going to school. And then now you see these like 15, 16-year-old children on TikTok making millions of dollars. millions of dollars.
It's crazy.
Or, you look at YouTubers who started out when you were also a teenager, all y'all in the same age group, but, they were able to drop out of school, and now they've built their platform and they're millionaires. And you there looking at your parents like, boy, y'all tell me stay in school. If I did follow my passion when I wanted to start a YouTube channel, I would have been set by now.
Or you went to all the church services and you was involved in all the different areas of church that they wanted you to, and then you come out and you still dealing with depression because of things not falling into place. You still single. Hey, let's go there. That's a big one. Hey, the clock ticking in your mind, and still no one showing up yet. But I did all things right. I kept myself. I didn't go and mix. I wasn't in these streets like they say. But what's happening? How come I ain't meeting the person that I supposed to be with?
I'm not a parent, but a lot of parents might say too, like, we raise our children in the way they should go. Like, why aren't they in the church?
Right.
Why aren't they active? Right. And so, so what about what happens when you do take all the steps and it's like, God, why have you forsaken me? Like, you promised this is not an abundant life. I'm not living more abundantly.
At all. At all. By every metric. And then conversely, you see the people who don't seem to care.
The wicked prospering
about the things of God.
Mercy.
And they get houses and lands. I mean, they thriving, right? As far as what we could see. Right. They look like they're thriving compared to us. And so it's like, why not me? That's the question that we sometimes find ourselves asking God. And, there was a biblical story that kind of related to it. That subject for us is the story of Job, right? Job, would pray, sacrifice daily for his children, praying for them.
Could not be found a blemish.
Job is doing all the crossing all the T's, dotting the I's, man, making sure he doing things right. And then, he lose all the children. He lose his livestock, his livelihood. Then he was losing his health. He was almost, could have been on the verge of losing his mind.
And let's be for real. Ain't nobody ever, ain't even no Christian aspiring to be a Job.
No, that's not that. We really be like, no. Who's my role model? I want to be like Job. I want to live through what? No.
Absolutely not.
No, that's definitely not something. But we know the feeling, though, of doing what we were told was right, but not getting the results. And that's not if we can be honest, that's not a good feeling, right? It's frustrating when you're trying so hard to do what you were told is the right way to go about life, the right way to go about relationships, the right way to go about your career, and things aren't adding up, right? It's frustrating to then hear all the songs and the stories about God, and he is a provider, and he has come true, and he never fails. But in your mind, as far as what you could see, you failing. when you measuring up, you at a certain age, and you ain't having certain things you supposed to have, and certain things ain't falling in place. In your mind, you failing.
So here's the answer that we usually get to that, which is where people start to suck their teeth and roll their eyes.
Let's go.
God's timing is not your own. What does that even mean? Sometimes, and I'm thankful that I have my own personal relationship with God, and like, I choose to be intentional about studying. Sometimes these, what do we call them? Idioms?
Idioms, yeah.
Idioms that as Christians we throw around. I don't want to say throw,
they
but we use often. While true, they become empty. So God's timing is not our own. His ways are not our ways. Like, it's not up for us to understand. And those things don't bring us comfort.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
No.
I would say.
No. There is such a thing called timing.
Maybe I've been at a show on this.
I think so. We did touch on it. I think we touched on it. We touched on a lot of things in multiple shows. But there's such a thing called timing and tactfulness, like sometimes we just ain't in the headspace to hear it, right? We need to be able to marinate and soak and go through the process of the emotions to then be ready to perhaps receive something like that. But sometimes, like you say, some people don't know what to say, and so they just throw it out there. Because while on one hand, and we could talk about it, it's true. Because, you know, we believe God is, you know, yes, omniscient, all powerful, all knowing. I mean, you know, we believe God has things together. But then there's still the reality that we are the ones who are growing and leveling up in our experience. And so for us, you don't just throw everything at a child, not calling
Right.
people children, but because you know they're progressing. So you have to bring them along. And so we need to learn how to bring people along when they're in the midst of the frustrations, when they're in the midst of the depression and feeling down and negative, just beating them over the head with things that we believe to be true and right, isn't just always the best approach. You know, because we have to be real. People have to learn and develop to come to certain realities. And one certain reality is God isn't like a cosmic vending machine. He isn't like you just plug something in and you just automatically get what you want out.
So it's not transactional.
It's not transactional, right? You don't come to God and it's a genie and because I said the right words and I rubbed the lamp the right way, you know, because I put my hands together when I pray and I always bow my head and close my and you have some. All right, I won't go there, but
No.
you have some folks who believe that the full posture, you know, the
Right.
prostrate and everything that
affects your prayer.
that affects the prayer, you know, like it's not about that gets something out of God, right? God isn't transactional. God is transformational. And that is because God sees beyond what we can see.
So, okay. So this requires whoever's in this situation to firstly have a relationship with God or base understanding of God
Number one.
and trust that he is this omniscient,
Yes, who he says he is.
Alpha and Omega, all-knowing, all-present figure, right? And then
Keeps his word.
believe that he has a plan, because that actually is something that can be very comforting. You know,
Yes.
life is full of uncertainties and tragedy. And that's also one of the reasons we do know this is why people cling to religion.
Yes.
Why we see, when you think of, when you think of Black people, right? And how essentially Christianity in the form that it was to colonize them, or to, what's the word?
Subjugate, colonize,
Whatever the case may be.
Bring them into submission.
Right. Make them Christians. And
Oh.
you would think that these people who've gone through all this stuff would be so adverse to this message. But religion, that brought them through slavery. Like they
Yes.
clung to it. And so
That
when you
hope-
think of like
what?
the deep South, even here in the Bahamas, like Baptists, and just how churchy we are as a people, and how, you know, our messages really do center around deliverance, and God is a healer, he's a
Yeah.
provider, he's there, he's
Yes.
always on time. And how we've took that and clung to it, that he has a plan,
Yes.
tends to get people through their darkest days, believing that there has to be some rhyme and reason to all of what's going on, helps people to cope.
That's right. That's right.
And that's something that absolutely, I believe, it bolsters our faith in God.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It voices our faith in God. It gives us hope to keep pressing on. That belief.
Civilize. That was
Yes.
the word I was going to use. They wanted to civilize people. Go ahead, sorry.
Isaiah 55 tells us, you know, his ways are not our ways. His timing isn't our timing, right? It's frustrating because, you know, I have a timeline. Like, you know, at this age, I wanted to have this, and I wanted to have this at this point in my life. And I was working at this level in my job and hoping to get this type of, you know, increase. And, you know, I have my own ways that I'm trying to work things out. But there is a comforting hope to know that even when things don't work out the way that I plan for, that there's still a bigger plan that God has in mind, and his mind is always for my good. It's always for our good. And that's hard to swallow sometimes, because when suffering, when hardships, like you mentioned, come, it's hard to swallow that things are out of my control. And I think that's probably one of the things where we wrestle with and we say, why me? Because it's out of my control at that point.
Right. There's nothing you
There's
can do.
nothing I can do. I did what I could do, right? And I was hoping for outcome, but it ain't working out. And in the midst of that, that could be real depressing.
I think when you look in the Bible and think of how disappointed the disciples were really when they really realized what Jesus' purpose was, right? So when we think about what we consider blessings or what we consider as God working in our favor, that definitely might be different absolutely from the blessings that God is bestowing on us or that he wants to bestow on us, right? Because for us, unfortunately, as a result of sin and us having to really live this hard lifestyle, for us, what would be a blessing is money.
hey, that's right.
It's money.
Direct deposit.
It's money. That's what right now we're in a point in society and time where like we really, everybody, not everybody, because the wicked seem to be prospering, but a lot of people are really struggling to survive, to make ends meet. And right now, life, health, and strength, please be for real. I want money in my pocket. So I could enjoy the life, health, and strength.
Yeah, enjoy the life. Right. And
but,
Oh, no, finish it, man. Finish it, because I was going to take it another direction. So finish it.
Oh, very quickly, I was going to say the other side to that is that even when God does bless us, the whole point of faith, like, faith is the substance of things we can't see, right? The whole point of faith is that we believe, even if it doesn't happen, that God is still good. And so you see that manifested in the story of the Hebrew boys and the fiery furnace. Where they fully believed that God was capable of bringing them out of this situation. But they also turned around and said, even if he doesn't, their faith was still strong. And that's like, God forbid, I say this myself because I do want to get married one day. But I'm not obligated to a husband by God. Like, that's not contingent on my faith either, right? Unfortunately, we're obligated to eternal life, but up there, not down here. So death will occur, unfortunately, senseless as well, because what we are obligated to is free will and free choice.
That's right.
And so these things will continue.
Sobering.
And in all of this, our faith has to stand because we just believe God is who he says he is, even when we can't understand it.
Man, this is sobering when we start to really go down. Because after you get off to the smiling and the niceness of it, then you get to the realities of sometimes God may have a plan that may call for us to sacrifice or be without certain things we want.
I was telling him that's off the air. That sounds awful.
I mean, it's
like I want us to be honest with ourselves, right?
Be real.
I remember when there was that trigger warning where there was that mass shooting that happened in the States a few years ago, and they held up the girl and they said, "Do you believe in Christ?" And, that was printed in missionary book and Sabbath school books and all down the line forever. And they were like, well, are you willing to die for Christ? And everybody in Sabbath school, adult Sabbath school lesson, like, yes, absolutely. We must lay down our lives.
Oh, man.
And the reality is nobody actually wants to do that. Or maybe they do, and I'm just not there in my
I think they want to. They're saying they probably might if the opportunity came, but they wouldn't volunteer to say, send me. But I promise you I'll be quaking in my boots. And I also promise you that I pray every day, Lord, I am not your strongest soldier. Please, we don't have to do this. Because even Jesus is like, please take this cup from me. There are things that we do not want to do. That's it. That's the reality. There are things that are hard to bear. there are realities that we are going to experience that is not going to be comfortable. There are going to be many times where you're going to be saying, why not me? Why can't I be the one? But God is the one who sees and he knows, and that's where the faith, like you mentioned, comes into place. To trust in the word, like Romans 5, verse 3 and 4 tells us that we can rejoice when we run into problems and trials, for we know that they help us to develop endurance. And endurance develops strength of character. And character strengthens our confident hope of salvation. And so it's the faith that helps us to press on in the midst of the difficulty to say, hey, God's still doing something on me. You know, he ain't finished with me yet, and there's more that he is trying to do in me. And I need to have the faith to swallow and say, Lord, I need what you have to do in me more than what I feel I want for myself. And that's hard sometimes.
I look at the time like, do I want to go here? But
yeah.
sometimes even the ways in which God, because again, we believe he can see into the future, right?
He knows it all.
The ways in which he can use us, our circumstances, our stories, sometimes may not manifest while we're alive. They might be years and years down the line.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, how many times have you heard of a hymn that was written like 50, 60 years ago? And like that person died, but their words were carried on into their stuff. And then this song lifted so much people out of these dark moments or transformed their lives completely. Even in a secular sense, we hear all the times of like artists and stuff who they die and like it's decades until their work is discovered or appreciated. How much more so can we believe that in his omniscience, he's able to see how this small, what is this called? Butterfly effect? Can trickle down and cause a change in like hundreds of people.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like, are we, being honest with ourselves, are we willing to be used to that degree?
And one of the greatest miracles of that is when, as a believer, we meet Jesus, how just that one moment was able to trickle down into the rest of our lives and transform us and transform our interactions with others that have been so tremendous in its outreach. And so that's one of the biggest things we can look at your own testimony and see that where God has brought you from, even though you may say you ain't where you feel you need to be or could be yet, that is a testimony of a miracle right there, that trusting in God is still going to do so much more for you than what we think we could do for ourselves. So before we end the show today, since we still sit in the uncomfortable feeling of not accomplishing what we would want or see for ourselves, there are still some things that we could do in the midst of those hardships.
We could ask God for strength.
Okay.
Let's open up that clear communication.
Yeah, like,
with
Lord,
him.
I weak
Be
right
honest.
now. It didn't mean house.
It ain't like you don't know.
That's true. That's true. But we could ask you, like you say, ask him for strength.
There's
I like that.
verse, Philippians 4:13, that we all know, like, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Yes. What else?
Another thing we could do is we could ask God for peace. We could ask God that in the midst, like, man, it ain't me, Lord. It should have been me. I thought it should have been me. And your heart is troubled. You could ask God for peace. Pray and ask him to bring peace to the storm in your life, in your situation. And his presence is able to calm your heart and mind if we allow him, because we are trusting not that everything feels well, but we're trusting that he has a plan to make all things well. And John 14:27 tells us, peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you, not as the world gives, do I give to you.
Mother said, that text say, I ain't giving you no money.
Hey,
That's
giving
the
you peace.
That's the peace the world gives.
Something better than that. Say, let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. So
Yes.
you can't put a price tag on peace. Your people with all the money in the world and they ain't got no peace.
Yes. Big one, guidance. Asking him to show us the way in which we should go. Because now this is when you're feeling helpless and you don't know. You can pray for guidance.
Yeah.
And he will guide you.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
My daddy's favorite verse was Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6.
Yep.
Which says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your paths straight.
That's right.
Don't lean onto your own understanding,
No.
even of your own understanding of what situation you're even in.
Yeah, that's...
Because you might not even know the half of it.
These some hard pills to swallow, but it still gives you
And
hope.
easier said than done.
Easier said than... That's why we got to be asking God.
Disclaimer.
And that's why in the midst of that, another thing we could pray and ask God for is comfort. You know, in the midst of all of this uncertainty, and, you know, ask him to comfort you. Ask him for his presence. Ask him for his, they say, leaning on the everlasting arms. Ask them arms to stretch way around and wrap you tight and keep you close when you start to feel weary and you know that, you know, things aren't looking the way that you expected.
And lastly, we ask God for hope. And we found this text, Romans 15, verse 13, which says, "May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in hope." And this is a very important prayer because we are living in a time where everything seems so hopeless. So we're like, what is the point?
Yeah.
Like, you know, hopeless for relationships, hopeless like children, hopeless for marriages, hopeless for the church. Like, you know, there's so many things to just look at and just sigh and just, I'm not even bothering with that anymore. But pray and ask for hope.
Yeah, man. You do these 5 things, and this can help when life gets a bit challenging and overwhelming. You have that secret power. You have that secret weapon, prayer. So that when you say, "Why not me?" Go pray. Go pray. I know it sounds as if it may be not the most, what's the word? It isn't the most pleasant thing to think about sometimes in the midst of it. But when you go and pray, you can find hope. You can find help in this time.
Yes. So, guys, thank you so much for listening to us here today on Word SBC 88.3 FM, where we always aim to be bold, be true, and be heard. You can catch us every week on Tuesdays from 6 to 6:30, with reruns on Wednesdays and Fridays from 3:30 to 4. Also, we're on social media at SBC Media Network. You can catch our reels, our little clips of what's to come in the upcoming shows
You can
on
interact with
Instagram.
us too. Yeah. Put your comments, man. We want to hear from you.
And Facebook.
Yeah.
And we are now, I keep saying that like it's new. It's not new, but we are now
New to
on
someone.
YouTube.
Well, we moving up.
South Bahamas Conference.
Hey.
You can watch our episodes. You know, let it play in the background while you're doing your stuff. Like Manasseh said, interact with us.
Yeah,
We'd
talk
love
to
to
us,
hear us.
man.
Let us know what you'd like to hear us talk about.
Some future show ideas.
Because we draw a lot from current events, what's popular on social media, because we want to get the conversation going.
Yeah.
We're young, and we want to know what's trending.
Right.
Let's talk about it.
Yep.
We're also on Rev Channel 988. But that's all for this evening. I'm Tyler,
I'm Pastor Nasa.
and we'll catch you guys next time.
Peace.
Young and Trending was brought to you by the Bahamas Adventist Book and Nutrition Center, located on Tonic Williams Darling Highway.